The Princess and the Pea. There once was a king and a queen who had a son. They wanted to help him find a wife because they wanted to be sure he married the right kind of girl. They had already decided exactly what she needed to be like. Since he was a prince, they wanted him to marry a princess. But they couldn't seem to find the right princess for Prince Brian. All the princesses they knew were very nice and proper and sat very sweetly in the living room and never made much noise. But, well, Brian never knew what to say to them. He just knew that none of them were the right princess for him. There was Matilda.
Hello, Mr. Prince. Mad to greet you. I mean, glad to meet you. Oh.
Such a nice girl, but she acted like Brian was going to bite her or something, which he never did. Then there was Penelope.
Hello. Lovely place you have here.
Then she just sat there. Nice girl. Wrong princess. One evening, a terrible storm came. It thundered, and lightning struck. Rain poured from the sky. It was a really terrible storm. Suddenly, a knocking was heard at the palace door, and the king himself went to open it. There was a girl standing at the door. What a mess. She was soaking wet, in jeans and an old shirt. Her hair was in her eyes and drenched with water so that it stuck to her head. She was carrying her tennis shoes in her hand and stood there with bare, muddy feet looking up at the king. She said,
Hi there. I'm Princess Molly. Could I come in for a minute? It's pretty sloppy out here.
The king let her in the door and she stood dripping on the floor while the queen got her some towels with which to dry off, yes. Then they all sat down in the living room with hot tea and cookies to warm up a little. Brian said,
Pretty wet out, isn't it?
Boy, oh boy, it's a gully washer. A real frog strangler.
They sipped some tea.
You look like you got pretty damp outside.
The king said.
Damn.
She said.
I'm soaking wet. Why, I squished mud all in between my toes, and I fell in a giant puddle. There are a million frogs out there and earthworms and...
More tea, Molly?
Interrupted the queen.
Sure.
Molly answered.
Want to see the dead beetle I found, Brian?
The queen could see that Brian and Molly were getting along well. She had never met any princess quite like Molly before. She thought she had better do the never-fail princess test that night, just to make sure she was a real princess. She asked Molly if she would like to spend the night.
That would be great.
Molly answered.
I'll call my parents. Where do I sleep?
Upstairs, in the special princess room.
Answered the queen. This room had a bed with 20 mattresses on it, and 20 more mattresses on top of those. And under all those mattresses, the queen had placed a pea, a tiny little pea, a teensy-weensy, teensy-teensy-leensy little tiny pea. Molly went up to the room.
Sheesh, you sure have a lot of mattresses in here. How do I get up there to sleep?
The queen showed her to the tall ladder at the end of the bed, and she began to climb and climb and climb and climb and climb until she got to the top mattress, and she was really ready to go to sleep when she got there. At breakfast the next morning, the queen asked,
Molly, how did you sleep?
Not too great.
Molly answered.
I couldn't get to sleep all night. I don't know what was in that bed. I thought maybe it was my pet frog or one of my marbles, but it wasn't either one of those. Whatever it was something hard because I'm black and blue all over.
That settled it. She was a real princess, all right, because she had felt the pea through 20 mattresses and then 20 more. Nobody could feel that except a real princess. Prince Brian and Princess Molly got to be very best friends. They joined the same Little League team and went to camp together and everything. And sure enough, one day they got married, the end. Or perhaps the beginning. Ha ha!